So the first time Mars went retrograde in its debilitated sign of Cancer in the 20th century was on November 26th, 1913 until February 12th, 1914. So this exact period of time held one of the most consequential events in all of American history, which was the signing of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 into law. So this law created the Federal Reserve, which is an independent agency which was granted the exclusive right to print and control the money supply of the United States. And it's a confusing term because the Federal Reserve, it's not actually federal. It's an independent agency, independent from the federal government, and it's not subject to any check on its power. What the Federal Reserve chooses, no congressperson, no president, nobody can override its decisions. And it's also a confusing term because it doesn't have any reserves in the form of gold or precious metals. I visited the Federal Reserve when I was about 14 or 15 years old in Washington, D.C., and you can take a tour. And really all it has are giant money printing machines, and you can take a tour and see them printing the money. So the Federal Reserve operates as a private institution who, again, do not answer to anyone within the United States government. So remember what Alan Greenspan said. Alan Greenspan was the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board from 1987 until 2006. During a television interview, he was asked, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and the President of the United States? He responded, well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place, and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. So the Federal Reserve bill was very controversial because of the power being granted for this agency to print and control the money of the entire country. And it was not agreed upon, even by the oligarchic powers, that there should be an independent agency controlling the money supply. It's a very big deal, this institution. But what made the law even more controversial was how it was passed. And it was passed on December 23rd, when most members of Congress had already gone home for the holidays. So it was basically passed in a very underhanded way, in a kind of secretive way.
During the debate on the measure, senators complained that the big banks were using their financial muscle to influence the outcome. Despite the charges of deceit and corruption, the bill was finally snuck through the Senate on December 22, 1913, after most senators had left town for the holidays, after having been assured by the leadership that nothing would be done until long after the Christmas recess. On the day the bill was passed, Congressman Lindbergh prophetically warned his countrymen that
this act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs this bill, the invisible government by the monetary power will be legalized. The people may not know it immediately, but the day of reckoning is only a few years removed. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetrated by this banking bill.
So with the Federal Reserve System in place, this board of directors have no official oversight or check on their power by any branch of the government. We're now able to print all of the money and control the money of the United States. And it's also legal to print your own money in the United States. Only they have the right to do it. And really the magnitude of this law, this single law, cannot be overstated. And critics of the Federal Reserve claim that this monumental power over the money supply of the United States government is the primary cause of the boom and bust economic cycles that we've been experiencing ever since the law was passed during Mars retrograde and debilitated in Cancer. So you'll see on that very day, December 23rd, 1913, Mars was within 1 degree of the 8th house cusp while retrograde. And it was exactly conjunct just a couple days prior when we would assume that the bill was being finalized and being brought to a vote. And you'll also notice that Jupiter is debilitated. So the ascendant lord of the chart, Jupiter, debilitated in Capricorn, conjunct the 2nd house of the country's finances And that was a week leading up to the signing of the bill.